Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. I don't know which channel to cover this on. I'm going to cover it on my main channel. Alec and Hilaria are pretty desperate. Alec is probably a little bit more desperate. He doesn't have any movie authors. Her yoga instructing isn't, bringing in the kind of dough they need. She's a yoga instructor. And so they are going on TLC and having their reality TV show, which so many people have told me about. Let's get into the announcement here.
Because otherwise I'm going to look like I'm taller than you, and you already said I was short.
Hi, I'm Alec Baldwin.
And I'm Ilaria Baldwin, and...
You are short. Okay. You're short. She's like 5'2". He already told her she was short. Like, you just stand next to him, or even your kids. You look like a little kid from Boston, Spain.
And we have an announcement. Let me do it again, sorry. Hi, I'm Ilaria Baldwin.
And I'm Alec Baldwin.
And we have an announcement to make.
Good God, no.
No, definitely not. We're done having kids. Bye.
Sit down.
Oh. This is about our show.
We're inviting you into our home to experience the ups and downs, the good, the bad, the wild, and the crazy.
It's going to be called Hard Times at the Baldwinitos. Hard Times with the Baldwinitos. They haven't figured out whether it's going to be a comedy, a drama, a foreign film, shot in Boston, Spain, a murder mystery, a tragedy, or, all of the above.
Home is the place we love to be most.
You say we are the Baldwins.
No, we are the Baldwins. We all gotta say it.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. We are the Baldwins. And we're coming to TLC. I'll help you all.
Wow, boy, that was more desperate than I thought. And the kids are a nightmare. You can't have that many kids and two narcissistic parents and some nannies and stuff. But they are, the Baldwins are in some hard times. And, he needs attention. They both need attention. She probably needs more attention. The whole thing about her coming from Boston, Spain, having two very white English parents, and then her claiming that she is, putting on an accent because they like to vacation in Spain is, was wonderful. But then he shot a coworker, right? So, I guess I have to tune into this now. I thought I was kind of getting done with the Alec Baldwin sag. I started covering him years ago for his bogus Trump impression, but, All right, well, speaking of misbehaving kids, this kid right here starts making faces behind his dad. One of the, for Congress, this is like epic.
We'd be well served to remember the long and cherished tradition. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to address the terrible precedent set in our country 4 days ago.
Is this about Donald Trump's?
Using the justice system to engage in a
All right. This kid's going to be trouble. He realizes there's a camera on him.
Politically driven prosecution and now conviction of a major political party nominee.
How old is this guy? This guy's got to be something like, in his 60s, right? We're going to have to investigate this because he's probably married some young woman, divorced his third wife. I don't know who this is. I'm just speculating. Divorced his third wife, married some young woman who wanted to have a kid, and now he's got this little ginger kid over here.
Running for president, especially
this kid's he's going.
The charges brought against Donald Trump should gravely concern every member of this body as well as every American across our country, whether they be Republican or Democrat, for Donald Trump or against
him. All right, so he's smiling now, but he's like, all right, what else can I do?
Regardless of one's opinion of the current Republican nominee, we'd be well served to remember...
Boom, all right, there it goes. There we are.
...the long and cherished...
Yes. Do it.
...tradition we have in this country of settling our political differences at the ballot box. For nearly 2.5 centuries, our nation's elected leaders have...
That kid's trouble right there.
...properly resisted
So he's just undermined everything his dad's saying.
The temptation to oppose their political rivals through the weaponization of our justice system, equal justice for all, and an overall trust in our justice system is fundamental to who we are as Americans. And those who would destroy that hard-earned trust just to score cheap political points should be held accountable.
All right, so that was that. When I was a little kid, I had some mental and psychological evaluation because I was dyslexic, which I didn't find out till I was in my 30s. And I went to the Yale University, which I was lucky because they had all kinds of weird programs there. And they put me behind. I was sitting in a room by myself, and they were observing me. And my dad was in there. My dad used to always embarrass me, purposefully. He was kind of loud and, didn't have the embarrassment gene. And, even when I was a little kid. And I knew that he was behind I knew this mirror was there, he was watching me. I knew he was behind there somehow. And I went up, I started giving him the finger, and there's a room full of people, right? My dad encouraged me to swear, brought me to Mel Brooks movies and things, and swore, so that, my mom wasn't happy about that, but that's why he ended up getting the finger, because, he taught me to do that stuff. Okay, so there it is right here, right? Here he is with his wife. This is, there's a little kid there, little ginger kid. She's got red hair. And she's significantly younger than him, which is exactly the problem. She's... Little do they know that the silly 6-year-old making faces behind the Congressman floor speech was 59-year-old Rose's son by his wife, who was 25 years his junior. So that guy's the same age as me and looks way worse, way older than I do. I don't, I can't evaluate it, but I know that I look younger than him. Rose and his wife Chelsea seemingly met when she was in high school and he was 42 and crossed paths at a farming convention. And so, how did he make his money? This stuff. He's a rich dude that decided to go into politics. The age difference between the two was 25 years. So he's had to pony up a young kid who he brought to the Congress, and, there's all that. This is his first wife. So, I don't know when they got married, but he didn't marry till her, so it's not his third wife like I speculated. But it still isn't better, right? It's still not better. There's a 25-year age gap there. And he's got a bunch of young kids. And, I can say, they must have help because he's a rich guy. But, when you're that age, when you're, he's my age, when you're my age, having kids is just, you don't have the energy for it, right? Toddlers and all that stuff. He has nannies and, whatever it is. But the whole thing seems pretty creepy. There they are there, the fam. Congressman from Tennessee. From Tennessee. There's that story there. Son became a viral sensation. There they are, the happy couple. Okay, so I haven't talked about this school in a while. And she apparently has a TV show on Prime Video.
Ready?
What a vocal powerhouse.
Is the sound man okay?
Okay, so she has always been weird. It's Vegas.
My voice is the conductor of my life.
Boom. She's just gone full ghoul. So, years ago, I don't know, 2017, 16, 17, 18, something like that. I noticed, it must have been 2018. Now, I hadn't used the word ghoul probably in my whole life. It wasn't something I called people. It wasn't something that I thought about. I talked about people being vampires and zombies, but not ghouls, right? And then I saw her and Pete Davidson, and the word ghoul popped into my mind. Like, that was the distinction. And she had lost weight. Remember, she had this new, very ghoulish fabric line. And she was just a nightmare. Like, she just looked horrible. And she's always been weird. She's always been really weird and very narcissistic.
When your voice brings you joy,
I get wings to fly.
Did she say when your voice brings you joy? You mean your own voice brings you joy?
Voilà, les garçons. Je t'aime. You're the best of yourself. I need my instrument.
She needs her instrument.
Celine? Celine.
911, what's your emergency?
Boom.
Have been diagnosed with a very rare neurological disorder, and I wasn't
Called stiff person syndrome. Otherwise, she's been diagnosed as a ghoul. She's a stiff.
ready to say anything before. But I'm ready now.
She's ready now. I'm ready now. I'm ready now. Sing it, Celine. Celine. What did I call her? Celine? That's the ghoul thing right there. She's ghouling it up.
I see my life, and I love every piece of it.
She takes every little piece of her life.
When a girl loves her shoes, she always makes
Okay, so this way. Look at her do this thing here. Watch her go.
shoes. She always make them
Playing the guitar.
fit. From 6 to 10, give it to me. I love them.
6 to 10. She'll take it. If it's 6 to 10, she'll take it. Give it to her. I think she means her shoes, though. So those are all of her shoes behind her, right? And she says if it's 6 to 10, so really she's a 10 or a 9, right? And I don't know why they don't. It's probably they don't make her shoes in that size because she obviously has big feet for a woman. I think a 9 is that big. I don't know. But anyways, like, why can't she find shoes that fit? I mean, look at all the shoes behind her. And it's probably that she's wearing shoes that are too small for her. Because it's hard to wear shoes that are too big because they fall off, right? But she's saying she squeezed it into these shoes. Maybe that's what created the ghoul syndrome.
Here we go.
Well, that was weird. She's just so weird. Like, I mean, she was weird before, and then she just went full ghoul. Look at her go. Look at her play the guitar. Look at her do it. Look at her swagger.
When you record, it sounds great, but when you go on stage, it will be greater. I
It'll
think
be even greater when it's on stage. Look at these people.
we did create our own magic.
Boom. Look at these people. How could these people be that psyched to see Celine? Celine.
It's not hard to do a show,
Boom.
It's hard to cancel a show.
It's hard to cancel a show. It's easy to do the show.
I'm working hard every day, but I have to admit, it's been a struggle.
It's just not easy being a ghoul. Just, everyone should be, like, you should have that bumper sticker. It's not easy being a ghoul.
I miss it so much.
Boom. Underneath. Like, she can't do anything without showing off. There it is there.
Struggle.
Watch.
I miss it so
Boom. Under the legs. She has to throw a thing between her legs, even though, like, the kid's here. She doesn't have a glove on, so it's not really a game of catch. He's just there. He got all dressed up for this one little moment where she comes out for this trailer, throws the ball under her leg, probably take a few takes. He's just a prop, and she's not really having a catch because he's not throwing it back to her because she can't catch it because she's a ghoul and she doesn't have a baseball mitt. It's like, look at her hair.
I miss it so much.
Oh, she does have a mitt.
People.
Boom, there it is. Like, just ghouling it up. Full ghoul. Very dudeish, too.
If I can't run, I'll walk. If I can't walk, I'll crawl.
She'll crawl. She'll be on the stage, like, laying face down flat with her face on the side with the microphone placed next to her mouth, and she'll be belting out show tunes.
I won't stop.
She won't stop. She can't stop.
She won't stop.
It's all coming back to me.
Yeah, it's not. I am Celine. I am Celine. I had a funny name. What was it? Celine, Salon, Salone, whatever it is. She is that.
Map reveals best places to live in the U.S. if nuclear war breaks out. Fears of nuclear apocalypse and World War III abound. This is Microsoft. Some prospective homebuyers in the U.S. want to reconsider the locations they're looking for property. Real estate experts have concluded that the places in America that are best suited for nuclear war survival are remote and rural areas with warm climate and access to water and farmland. It's coming because people believe it's coming, and it's always been coming. Biden's campaign is hiring a meme manager, but you have to move to Delaware. Well, that's, I showed you his TikTok, Michelle. I'm going to go back to his TikTok when I have time. Apparently they got rid of the link, but it used to be there. Biden's campaign is seeking to recruit a savvy netizen to help whip out memes and bolster its internet strategy as a partner manager on its digital partnership team. They need more memes that aren't ones that are making fun of them.
Okay, not to be outdone. Here's RFK Jr.
I don't believe that there's a genocide going on, and I don't think Israel's intention is genocide.
Oh, come on, bro. Come on, it's just, you can't be this much of a shill.
I don't believe there's any evidence of genocide.
40,000 people dead, and most of those kids, 45% of those kids.
There is genocide going on in the Mideast, but it's a genocide of Jews, and it's a
it's the opposite.
Genocide of Christians, and nobody's complaining about it for some reason.
Okay, so, Muslims got, and I'm not defending Muslims, obviously, all the religions are corrupt and all these things, but Muslim people, after the big event in 2001, and before that, they became the enemy. When I grew up, the Russians were the enemy. You'd watch a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or something like that, and the Russians were the enemy. And then somewhere along the line, they made Muslims the enemy, and they were Muslim terrorists. And then homegrown terrorists, right? You see that a lot of times now, where it's truthers or right-wing Trump-type people are the enemy. That's the villains. Hollywood would say, these are the bad guys, these are the villains. And the Muslims were almost always it. I've never seen Jews be the villains in movies and covered in that way in terms of the media, right? And so Muslims, there's a lot of anti-Muslim sentiment in the world, in Europe, certainly in America. And so for him to say that, that's just an out-and-out lie, right?
And there are much worse wars than what's happening in Gaza right now. But for some reason, people don't want to complain unless it's Jews who can be blamed.
No, people like to complain about everything. Yeah, people only complain about Jews. No, they complain about everything. They do complain about Jews, sure. But they complain about everything. People complain about every racial group. You're saying that they don't complain about other demographics, like gay people don't complain about straight people and homophobia, and black people don't complain about white people, and white people don't complain about black people and Hispanics, right? It's every group's complain about somebody. Women don't complain about men. Men don't complain about women. No, everyone just complains about Jews. No one complains about Muslims. What are you talking about, bro?
The idea of saying that there's a genocide going on in Israel because people die in war, and
not kids. They're getting killed. You just look at the guy. He's just messed up. He's looking at.
And that in every war that's going on in the world today, there are civilians dying, and the average death rate, civilian to combatant death rate, according to the United Nations and to the Institute for the Study of Urban Warfare at West Point, is about 9 to 1. But in Gaza, it's about 1 to 1.
You mean that out of 40,000 people, 20,000 people are Hamas? Come on, bro. Come on, it's silly. You've made yourself into a caricature. You're the biggest shill for Israel out there.
Well, they've achieved a better, they protected in the most challenging conditions. The Israeli government had, the IDF has protected civilians better than any army in history. John Spencer said it has done more to protect civilians under more difficult circumstances.
Yeah. So Jesus, like, just stop it, bro. Like, it's embarrassing. You're embarrassing yourself. So this is a trip down memory lane. We got the Baldwinitos. We got Britney now, and we had Celine. Celine. I think I would call her Celine. She doesn't allow comments anymore, but she's at a spa or something.
Hey brother, we're in Vegas and we're going to a spa and we're lost. Hello. I have a scheduled appointment for 4.
Excellent. And today it looks like we have it scheduled at 4 o'clock.
It's wonderful when Britney does a foreign accent or whatever this is. She does it all the time. I was outside working and a tick was crawling down my toe. Ticks are like really hard and strong. If you've ever seen a tick or had a tick on you, and you can't really kill them, you need like a rock and like a cement, like something to kill them. But then they blow up and they become like 4 times their size. They're really weird. But anyway, she rocks these weird accents that are never accurate, and then real life people, like serious people in this case, have to deal with her, like adults. It's like dealing with a Muppet.
Like we're in like Disneyland for adults. It's like going to a spaceship. Balls. A lot of balls. Hello, balls.
So here comes Britney into the spa, and like these people have to.
We're gonna separate. We're gonna go. Denise, welcome to Awana Spa.
This is so. I feel like I'm tripping, dude. And then this is better than Disneyland because it's sexy.
And then at this point, we can't do video.
So I don't know who this bloke is. So this is Britney's Instagram. She's still rocking the bikinis, still acting weird. I'm not going to do a Britney dance thing, but sometime I will. That's Britney.
Okay, today is Thursday, June 6th. And this is the Hammer Guy. And YouTube recommended this to me. Trump is losing his guns. I want to get into the Trump thing just a little bit today. But let's see what he has to say here.
Well, the breaking defendant Trump news of the night is that Donald Trump has to give up his guns. Donald Trump, who has had bodyguards for many, many years before he had Secret Service protection, never had any rational reason to carry or even possess a firearm. But like many people who hope that a handgun might make them feel, I don't know, more like a man, Donald Trump...
Was that what it is? Trump doesn't carry a gun. Like, it's just stupid.
Trump owns 3 handguns, and he obtained a license to carry a concealed handgun, a license that the New York Police Department now wants to revoke. Under the headline, NYPD moves to revoke Trump's license to carry a gun, the New York Times is reporting, quote, the police department is seeking...
It's funny because of the stuff going on with Hunter Biden, where he may actually go to jail. Again, I'll believe it when I see it.
To revoke former President Donald J. Trump's license to carry a concealed weapon after his conviction in his New York hush money case. According to 2 people with knowledge of the matter, Mr. Trump had a concealed carry permit in New York and had 3 pistols registered under the permit, the people said. 2 of them were turned over to the police department's license division around the time Mr. Trump was charged in April 2023 with 34 counts of falsifying business records, according to the people with knowledge of the matter. The 3rd pistol had already been legally transferred to Florida. It is unclear whether it is still in Mr. Trump's possession. Under federal law and state law in New York and Florida, people with felony convictions are barred from possessing a firearm.
So this is the petty stuff they're getting into. Again, Trump sucks and he's not on your side. And this isn't, some war against your freedoms that are playing out with Trump. Like, even though it seems similar, the Trump family and their whatever harassment, and the way that it kind of aligns with the harassment of people in the truth community and right-wing people, it's not the same. And, Trump isn't on your side. We'll get into that a bit. But, the pettiness here, like when he's in jail, he's in jail. And when he's in prison, he's in prison. But until that time, this is going to play out right for the convention. There's just, this is right on schedule. They finally have a conviction after multiple attempts, a kind of a lame conviction. And, well, I'll cover this at the end. I want to show you more. Let's get back into this thing.
So now that Donald Trump is a convicted felon, not only will he lose his license to carry a concealed firearm, it is now illegal for him to even possess the handguns that he never had any rational reason to possess.
So why are you covering this? The guy hasn't carried them around, right? So, they'll do anything to cover Trump. They'll do anything. This is not a story. It's not going to affect you or anybody, and it's not anything to do with your rights or anything to do with anything. It's not anything to do with his, small amount of viewers that watch his crappy show. Old people. It's just a way to talk about Trump because you love him, right? You can't help but talk about him.
Even though Donald Trump doesn't need those guns and never used them, losing his license will feel like a man losing his possession of something important to him. It will feel like he lost all of that thanks to...
just really? You're talking about his manhood?
To the unanimous verdict of 12 New Yorkers. And that will be a form of torture for Donald Trump. Donald Trump...
So you really think about Donald Trump a lot. You were like, all right, how other ways is this going to affect Trump? Is he going to be president? We'll see. It doesn't matter if he is. It isn't going to get better. It's going to get worse. If he is, everything is going to get worse. If Biden's president, it's just downhill from here. Both of them are pathetic, old, going senile or senile candidates. And they're just, even if there was a good candidate, he couldn't save the country. Let's go to see what Don Lemon's had to say. So this is Joe Biden's TikTok. Let me show you this. I want to get into this more, but it looks like they got something here from Trump. I'm an honest man. No, you're a convicted felon. I'm an honest man. No, you're a convicted felon. So this is the level of content they're putting out for young people. So this is Don Lemon. So I got his stuff up here. How do you get the last name of Lemon?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a verdict. That verdict is guilty, 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 guilty. I'm not going to say it 34 times. Guilty on all...
You said it more than you needed to. You only had to say it once.
Counts. I know it is real. It actually happened. I know it's hard to believe. I'm joined today by a panel of fantastic legal eagles. My experts here. Joining me is Bernarda Villalona and also Diane Kiesel, like Diesel. She tells me every time, Don, it's Kiesel, like Diesel. So hello to you guys. How are you?
So you can't pronounce her name, or can't remember it?
You.
All right.
Yeah. Diane, how are you feeling after what happened yesterday? Because I wasn't sure. I thought it could go either way. I was not convinced that it was going to be guilty, and it could have been guilty on some charges and not guilty on others, but it was guilty on all 34.
Didn't matter if it was the maximum 4 years.
I'm pretty much in shock. I tended to agree with you. I thought, if anything, it would be guilty on the counts, perhaps, where Donald Trump actually signed the checks in his big Sharpie. I had less confidence that there would be a guilty verdict on those counts that required entries into the corporate ledger. But be that as it may, despite what Donald Trump said, a fair and impartial jury of his peers found that the people proved their case.
So, Diane.
Boom, yeah. All right, this sucks. Okay, just a few more things to get to here. U.S. finds itself further isolated after ICJ orders Israel to halt Rafah offensive. America's child care shortage is pushing military families to the breaking point. A shortage of child care providers has left around 9,000 children waiting months for spots at one of the military's child care centers. Everything's falling apart. There's just less and less things available that, businesses are going out of business, and there isn't people to fill jobs and things like this. Donald Trump pretends to lock her up was never one of his rallying cries. I covered this on my other video. Hopefully I'll remember. I'll put in the clip here.
All right, so this is my video from the YouTube bot. It says we want your channel to succeed, right? And I wanted to add this clip here. I just took this Trump clip about him completely lying and reversing himself on lock her up in a self-serving way, and them catching him in his lie. But then him doing it right after the election as well, where he reversed himself. And then I'm going to get into Operation Warp Speed.
They all said lock her up, and I felt, and I could have done it.
So he's saying there he could have done it. He could have locked her up. Well, the president and the Justice Department are not supposed to be connected. Like Trump and everybody has an attorney general. And what Trump is complaining about is that they've politicized the attorney general. And the FBI, the intelligence community, they're not supposed to be doing something like this, locking Hillary Clinton up. He said, I could have done it. Well, like you shouldn't. Like that's not a part of the American government, right? Like he's admitting to something that, he himself is complaining about now, where the left has used the Justice Department to target Trump, right? Which is, his whole problem. But he shouldn't have said that. Like, he shouldn't have said, I could have done it. Like, you thought about it, but I'm not going to. Because these guys are all in the same club, right? He used to give money to the Clintons, and he didn't think, he'd ever go to jail. And maybe if he put Hillary in jail, they might do the same to him. So it was only out of self-interest. He didn't like Hillary. But it was just something he used, the passion. Like, he didn't care about her crimes. It was only something he could say when he was running against her, but he didn't care about any of it, right? Because he's corrupt. And so, the guy sucks, right? He's just selfish and narcissistic.
But I felt it would have been a terrible thing. And then this happened to me.
But then this happened to me. But then it happened to me. That's classic Trump.
And so I may feel differently about it. I can't tell you. I'm not sure I can answer the question. Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up.
Lock her up is right.
I didn't say lock her up.
For what she's done, they should lock her up.
I didn't say lock her up.
Crooked, you should lock her up.
I didn't say lock her up.
Lock up Hillary. If she were to win this election, it would create an unprecedented constitutional crisis. In that situation, we could very well have a sitting president under felony indictment and ultimately a criminal trial.
Guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts. That is the verdict here in this case.
The thing about this, there's no denying that, and again, I don't believe that Trump is not in on this. I mean, he might not be in on it. He might be just being used and puppeted, which he certainly is being used and puppeted to some extent, whatever that is. But I'll believe it when he's in jail, right, that they're targeting this guy. But he was willing to do this to other people. He talked about it in the campaign trail. They're all corrupt. They're all criminals. They all suck, right? I always make fun of the left because of their obsession with Trump. But also Trump, he brings all this stuff on himself, just the way he is. And, he's a hypocrite. But he also uses his supporters. And it came out after the election. This happened, after he beat Hillary, where he, was saying lock her up and he was supporting that rhetoric. And then he completely about-faced and changed.
Donald Trump is seemingly already going back on one of his campaign promises.
This is the gumball guy. He's my favorite CNN reporter. He would later go on to count Trump's lies and gumballs. Right? No, he really did that, which makes his lies great because everyone likes gumballs. And they had like these whole crates on wheels, those metal crates with jars full of gumballs, occupying the whole room at CNN because he was counting his lies and gumballs. But let him go on here.
You'll remember he promised to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton for using a private email server that happened during one of the debates. Well, listen to what he said at one of these thank you rallies just last night.
That plays great before the election. Now we don't care.
Yeah, if you couldn't really decipher that, there were chants of lock her up from the audience, and he said, now we don't care. That was before the election.
See, Trump is a good salesman and panderer. He panders to his audience, and he knew that his audience really hated Hillary. And he totally leaned into that. But after the election, he could care less about her. He said the same thing when he went after DeSantis, and he said, why are you so hard on DeSantis? He said, well, he's the front runner. And then I went on to cover how he said he was the father of the vaccine. Remember all that stuff, Operation Warp Speed. So we'll come back to that. Let's get back to what I was saying here. Because this is just a way to show you that Donald Trump is not on your side and never was. And here is Donald Jr. This is Eric Trump. Eric Trump said this.
They're literally feeding him, certain segments of the population that he might not have had in 2016 and 2020, because for the first time they realize that the system's coming down, that he's the victim. He's the victim that oftentimes some of their communities were. And you see them swing. You look at the African American vote, right? That's swinging over to Donald Trump in spades. Look at
Well, that's unfortunate, because that's a derogatory racial slur that's used toward black people, and he just said that about black people because he's a real dope. But the other thing that he said here is, let me switch over to voiceover. The thing about all these narratives, I just saw a video clip I'm going to put on my other channel when I get around to making a video there. I still have that video up about the bloop. That's, is important video about how they're, the abuse and the like hate speech that they did against anti-vaxxers by any measurable standard. And so Marjorie Taylor Greene was going out after Fauci, and she just sucks, and I'll cover that, because she's not the person you want on your side. But what Eric Trump just said is that all these communities that feel like the system's against them, and he was talking about African-American people, but also, of course, like with truthers and, right-wing people feeling they're targeted. And you see Donald Trump being targeted and it being unfair towards him, and you think it's the same thing, and it's not. Like his thing is, everything that happens, there's a way to spin the story for the left to feed their base. Everything that happens with Trump, and then there's a way to feed Trump's base with the same story, right? Donald Trump is convicted. Yes, he's a felon, according to Democrats and the liberal media. Now he's a felon. We finally got him. We always knew he was a criminal. Now he's been convicted. And for the right, it's unfair justice, the justice system being misused. And so every one of these things plays for more division and to make it feel like this is the same things that are happening to you when you feel like you're being screwed over by the system. I was talking about this in my last video about how this AI bot is, lying to us, all, or lying to me personally. And they come up with these like goofy things, these things that they say. Like, we want your YouTube channel to succeed, right? Like, it's just, it's an obvious lie. But this thing about invalid traffic that I said, this scam where they're stealing people's money, right? And, I have tried to get better internet. And there was a time I had AT&T and that sucked. And I went to return the equipment that AT&T got me, they gave me. And, not gave me, whatever, pay for it. And I was at the UPS store. And the lady there said, make sure you take a picture of the receipt and everything, because they'll say you didn't get it and charge you anyway. You have to document this interaction with you and UPS to make sure that you have ways to prove that you actually gave them back the equipment. Because I tried to return it in person to an AT&T store. They wanted me to mail it in. And so then I had all the issues with Verizon, which I've told you guys about. And they, were... I was on the phone with a guy, and he was going to give me some kind of... They never gave me a new router, they just whatever. Another machine learning issue. And the Verizon person told me, make sure you document everything that you return, because they'll claim that you didn't return it and charge you. And so they used to be customer friendly. I mean, in terms of AT&T's kind of always sucked, but, in terms of their, they want customers. It used to be the customer's always right. And now they just screw you over. They're always finding ways to screw you out of money. It's part of the business model. And it's just across the board. And where their own employees are telling you that they're going to try to screw you later on, right? And so, that's happened with YouTube now, where they're stealing people's revenue. And it's just a big glom of cash. They're, whatever happens, they'll get your, they're going to get your stuff. Like, this is them taking back the wealth of the people. And, that's been a plan for a long time. We know with, they said it in the World Economic Forum, right? And so, that's how you're being treated. It's not the same thing when Donald Trump is having this happen, because, even though it's happening to him maybe organically, he is not going to then fight for you. And he's proved it over and over again, right? With this thing where he said, let's lock her up. Like, he's not going to fight for you. He's not about you, right? He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about, like, any of this stuff that has to do with you. He's not, there for you. And he ever has been. And the Operation Warp Speed was a good example of that. But he's just selfish. And he's always screwed other people over, screwed the little man over. He screwed his vendors over the same way that Verizon, AT&T are screwing people over. Where it's a rigged system where they have ways of getting things from you. Like where you end up paying and they end up, receiving, even though it's like their fault, or, you've given back the equipment. It's like when you pay a security deposit and you're not going to get that security deposit back. The people are going to go through it, the property managers, and they'll find ways that somehow the place isn't left the same way that you got it and charge you money for it. Like the security deposit, you never count on that coming back. Like whatever it is when you rent a place, because it's built in that they're going to take some of that, right? They'll find a way to take it from you. Like it's money that you think you have, your money in the banks, they'll find a way to take it. Like that's already happened to people in various times before. They're going to find ways to steal your resources, and then you'll complain, or you feel like you have a case against them, or whatever you pursue, you're screwed. Like they're not, it's just rigged against you. There's no chance of you being able to keep it or, get anything back. And they're just going to be stealing more and more of your stuff. And Donald Trump isn't going to fix that because he doesn't care about you. He showed it over and over again. And so when you see him suffering the way that he's suffering, it's very easy to say, well, like he's like us, and he's not. That's what Eric Trump was saying. It's not the truth. It's not, reality. Whatever they're doing to Trump, it's like the stuff they did to Alex Jones, where it's their guy, it's their shill, and they're making a precedent for what they can do to you. But it isn't like that guy's on your side and you should be fighting for him. Like he's establishing a legal precedent, or a social precedent with the deplatforming, and then all the rest of it, right? And so you'll see how the election plays out. We'll see how all this, and I don't know, it's going to be scripted the way they want it, just like everything else. But this is particularly, they're handpicking the next president, whether it's Biden or Trump or somebody else, and I don't even know how it's going to all play out, right? But the fact that his sentencing date is like 2 days before the Republican convention, like Trump is going to be running with the idea that he might even have to pardon himself if he wins. Like, they're just going to make this into a mess. And Trump right now should win. Like, it'd be hard for them to even cheat, even though the whole thing's rigged anyway. Because, Biden's so senile. He's lost so much support. The youth vote because of Israel. And his campaign's like in a shambles. We'll see how the debates play out. But Trump is a mess, too. Trump is not the same guy. Trump looks old. He looks beaten. He's very bitter. And he doesn't have the same energy that he had. And, there might be still the same passion amongst the Trump's dopes. But I think a lot of them have doubt, certainly people in the truth community. And so Trump has a cap of under 50% of the voters. Like, he can't cross 48 or 49% with any sort of people who will, all the other people will never vote for him, right? And Biden is a disaster. So, that leaves Kennedy, who's a disaster. And so, whatever way it plays out, it looks like Trump would win like today, but we don't know. Like, that was the case before they unleashed COVID. But whatever happens with the thing, it doesn't matter. Like, the outcome doesn't matter. Because these two senile old men who are, just puppets and have handled and incapable of really running the country anyway, incapable of doing that job, right? That job takes, more than an 80-year-old man has, right? At least these two 80-year-old men. And Trump really wasn't running the country when he was president. And Biden certainly isn't. He's a puppet. And so, like, everything that's playing out now is completely controlled as a way to undermine your whole thing, right? Like, we all know it. Anybody in the truth community should know this. That is, like, it's this time when, things like this happen. When I first started doing this years and years ago, I remember people saying, you think that your life is at risk? Well, first I was in India, and I talked about this with Indians, and even, like, some kids who were, there's just not a lot of truth people in India. Like, they just don't have it in their the truth community doesn't exist like it, everywhere else there's, whatever it is. And there were some young people there that I was talking to who were kind of like, little bit truthy. College kids are. They're like college kids, And I said that I would like to put together a network in India, like where truth stuff was there, like something that would, I was already doing this YouTube channel for America, but I thought I could put together something there. Because I was finding there's so much corruption. There would flourish, and, of course, their media is a joke there. And they're like, oh, no, they'll kill you. Like, they got really scared, like, for me or whatever. Because, even though India is a very passive country in different ways, there's just levels of corruption and just whatever they do there. But, like, in America, people would say, well, do you think you worry about your life or whatever? And, I said to them, well, they'll take away your YouTube channel first, right? They'll censor you first, then they'll deplatform you, right? Like, there's ways that they would have of dealing with you, which wouldn't involve murder, like it wouldn't involve silencing people. But now I realize it doesn't matter. Because no matter how much truth you speak, and when you get to the higher levels of truth, you lose your audience. You lose more and more people. Because most people just want the negative truth, which I talk about in so many recent videos. And that everything's going to play out the way it's going to play out. And so back then, I thought that I and other people would have influence over what's going to happen, and now I know that's not true. That nobody does. Nobody from the highest level of people. Like, we're in a time where everything's locked in, and it's a time of destiny. And the way things are going to play out, they're going to play out that way, or, if it doesn't happen this time, it'll happen next time. Like, it's just not there's maybe mild variations of the eventual outcome, but the outcome's already sealed. America's fate, the world's fate, it's already, been written. Like, even though it hasn't technically happened yet, it's already happened. And so there's nothing anybody can do about it. And so the way that you deal with it is, imperative. There's the Whispers of the Brighter World message. Let me read that here. These are these channeled messages from the Sizemore system. And I was just really feeling this. I didn't read it when it was first, it's It's Monday, November 15th, 1999, 8 a.m. But it was recently released in these whispers a day. They release these messages a day at a time, and they were going in order, chronological order. Now they've switched it up because of things being mishandled by the heartfulness people. But the messages still, are just ring true. The events occurring in your lives are milestones that mark your path. In themselves, they are not important. It is the way you all react that shapes your spiritual personality. A challenge successfully overcome and accepted is very formative. Do not worry about all that could happen to you. Live in the present and, above all, in a state of surrender. We will never say it enough. You cannot change anything regarding your destiny, that of your country or the earth. You are confronted with an equation that you cannot resolve. This is, like I said, when I first started doing this, I thought that the truth community might have some impact. And I kind of thought it would be minimal, in terms of changes. And I didn't, I never really fully believed the country could be saved because of just all of it, right? Predictions and things that I saw. But, I thought the truth community would be more influential than it is. But we know what happened, that the majority of people, no matter what you show them factually or not, anything that you show them, they're not going to change their position on this. The fate of humanity is not in your hands. You can direct the details of your lives, but in broad terms, we are often powerless to control the events that take place. For the essential surrender to the divine, to God, it is not reassuring for you to know that even if you are alone in the world, you are not ignored and forgotten. Is it not reassuring to you for you to know that even if you are alone in the world, you are not ignored and forgotten? The force of destiny manifests itself to you sometimes in all its power and leaves you dumbfounded. Be ready all times to accept what you deemed unacceptable. Trust blindly in the Almighty. That will be your greatest strength. Babaji, the second master of the system. He was. He died in 1983, or this is 1999, where he's giving this message to this French woman. But this really speaks to what I'm feeling about, have for a while, and it's how you react with gratitude to what you receive in the world, right? And that's the important piece, because everything else is, just in terms of your thinking that you can change things and that you could affect change or whatever. The things are going to happen the way they're going to happen. And it is a unique time and period when there is a system in place that you have a lifestyle. It's not all that unique, but in terms of the whole globe, it is. Because this happens to people all the time. There was a time there was an economic collapse, and there's things that have happened within the technological world. There's a third of the world's workforce is jobs that used to be done by people is now being done by robots, and that's old data. I don't know what it is now. That was, in the early 2000s, that robots, different types of robot machinery was taking over for jobs that used to be done by humans. And now with technology and AI, you see this. Even dealing with YouTube, in terms of interactions that you used to have with humans are now being done by machine-learned AI robots. And it's very good for them because the things will just carry they are not going to be disgruntled employees that have doubts and have a conscience and have a heart and have a soul. They're just going to do machine-level work, right? Emotionalist, dead, machine decisions. And so you're seeing this more and more, where the machines are doing everything for people that used to be done by humans. And so when that happens, a job that used to possess no longer exists for people. And there's times with the economic collapse that whole jobs, whole industries disappeared, and you had people who were, in California making $300,000 a year were within 6 months homeless and living in tents. That happens to people. And it happens to people all the time. In every country around the world where people get displaced. It happens to animals. An animal's got a nice, cozy hole in a tree. I was watching a video the other day, these barn owls had a hole in a tree that they were going to, use as their nest to reproduce. And some kestrels came in and stole it from them, right? Like it's just, a matter of what you can hold on to in nature. Like there's a big dominant, animal, pack of wolves, a pride of lions, or, like just tigers, more individual animals. And they have a territory. And a bigger tiger comes along and takes their territory, right? Because it's just bigger and stronger. They lose a fight. And that just happens. Or nature comes in and there's, devastation, and they have to move somewhere else, right? There's no stability in, your lifestyle or all these things. And so this happens, and to the degree that your lifestyle can vary from air-conditioned homes, to where water runs into your, all these things, vehicles, moving vehicles, airplanes and things, to living like a caveman, is prevalent for everybody. Like it just, your lifestyle can change to where you're like a, rich billionaire and then you're in jail. Like it's just, that could happen. The variation in your, your personal apocalypse. And all that stuff happens all the time, but collectively, not so much. But it does happen to countries. It happens to empires. And when empires collapse, is the effect of it, right? That people's lifestyles, things that you took for granted, things that you thought were going to be consistent, or disappear. And that's what we're facing, and how you to face that, right? Because a lot of people are just going to give up. They're going to curl up in the fetal position and just check out, because it's just not like something that they can deal with, right? And, that's the worst thing to do, because, it's completely overwhelmed. But those are the people that you can't talk to right now anyway. And even people who are, claim to be awake, woke up, they've awakened, is like that most of them aren't capable of dealing with this kind of change that's going to occur, and it's just going to be what it is. And the dust settles, and then people are going to have to deal with all of these things. Like, how are you going to live when, like, the system you're 100% dependent on collapses? Or at least is not nearly what it was before. And, it's war-torn countries that were dominant. I mean, you get invaded by a country, and it's pretty brutal. Aside from the war stuff, all your supplies, all businesses, all these things are just, nobody's doing their jobs anymore. Everyone's just, living under an occupation. And there's no food, there's no services. I mean, all these things that happen, right? You don't have water, you don't have food, you don't have internet, you don't have electricity, you don't have, moving vehicles. You can't go to do the things you used to do. Your money is worthless, right? Your currency gets devalued. And even if it doesn't, what do you buy? Because there's nothing in the stores, right? And so, these things we're in the process of that, whatever timetable it is, we're in that process. And so that's your situation, right? In terms of a pep talk. Like, the number one thing you can do, connect to God internally, which I always say, is the number one thing you can do under any circumstance. But, accept what's going to happen, and just figure out, what you need to do to adjust to it. And again, like I'm not saying wholesale life changes, because I don't know what your path is or what you should do. But at least ready for what's going to happen, right? At least prepare for it, because, you can see the writing on the wall. And again, there's never enough time. Like, there's never enough time to prepare for something like that. Because, there's going to be a shock to your system. No matter how, much of a prepper you are, or whatever it is, there's going to be things you didn't think about. There's going to be things that happen that are out of your control. And there's going to be ways that it affects you that you never even anticipated. And so every person has to, prepare for that inevitability, right? And nobody's going to save you, because there's nothing that can be, done to save the system. When you see a hurricane or flooding or something happens, a tornado hits, the rest of the country's fine. And there's federal resources, and there's ways you can get help. And maybe you take a hit, you take a loss, but you end up, restoring your lifestyle. But what happens when that happens everywhere at once? Then there's no overseeing, there's nobody to help. And, people are aware of this. Even, sheeple are worried about nuclear war, worried about, the apocalypse. The apocalypse is is something people, think it legitimately. You don't sound crazy when you say the sky is falling, because everybody feels it a little bit, and they're making all these TV shows and movies, post-apocalyptic TV shows and movies, and just, all of it. And it just feels like that because it is like that, right? But anyways, it's just something where it's an internal adjustment and preparing for something and accepting that, just thinking about things in a different way. Redefining what success is for you, redefining what your lifestyle is, redefining what your daily habits are, redefining all these things. What does life become about when the system that you've been, working with or working for or, impressed by no longer exists? Like, what do you do then? What's your goals for your life? What's your goals for your children? What's your future look like? What does your present look like your daily activities? And being able to adapt to that. Because some people have to, right? That's what pockets of the future means. And being able to, get a head start on that, at least mentally or intuitionally, and then, maybe in terms of your planning and just making some changes and, preparing in some way or another for this inevitability, right? And it's just there. And the people who are destined to survive this thing will start doing that. And everyone else will curl up in the fetal position and wait for the angels to come take them away. Only spirituality will save this world, as Paul Romano definitely pointed from the Apocalypse. And the Ascension, everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.